Have you been feeling overwhelmed with all of the information out there being sent your way of things you should do and how you should improve your life, or what you should implement in your parenting, in your job, in your career, in your house? So if that is you, this is the episode for you. Stay tuned through a few announcements and then we'll get into the content. Hey friends, welcome back to the Anchor Decisions Show. I am back with regular scheduled programming that still might be a little sporadic in me posting because of some health issues and just limited time with running my other business that has been actually really busy lately, my graphic design business. So wanted to just give a little disclaimer there with that, but I do expect to be launching new content coming up and have a little sneak preview for you right now of something I've been working on for Anchored that some of my upcoming content and podcast episodes will be related to. And that is a new bundle of resources for whether or not you should quit your job. So if you have been considering quitting your job, or you are just kind of looking for a career switch, thinking about it, maybe been questioning that decision for a while, or if you know someone who is, then make sure you're following me either on my email list or social media. Make sure you're following this podcast, something to stay updated so that when that bundle launches, you will be able to get all of those resources that I've taken my main sale method of my decision-making framework and broken it down into small little resources with a quiz at the beginning so you can see exactly where you need to focus your time and energy. So instead of feeling overwhelmed by your decision and all the different aspects, you can look at and say, oh, well, if I've already done my research on other job options, or if I've already prayed over it and I've been praying and I feel God kind of nudging me in this direction, or maybe God's been silent, then this bundle kind of, you can pick and choose which resources you want to dive into that will help you make a confident decision so that you can move forward with peace and knowing that you're on God's path. So stay tuned for that. Today's episode, though, I recorded this a few weeks ago and was planning on launching it, and things came up with 9/11 and Charlie Kirk and whatnot, and so I posted a different episode instead that was just on, hey, this nation needs hope, and us as Christians, we have that hope to share, and we need to not stay silent. We need to be educated on what we believe and what we are sharing, and so that we can take a stand for what we believe in and share the gospel, share the light of Jesus with those who so desperately need it. So definitely take a listen to that last episode if you did not catch it already. But for today, I wanted to share that with my current health journey that I've been on with, if you've caught past episodes over summer, I kind of took a break on posting because of some of my health issues, that I'm having these gut issues that are triggered by and exacerbated by stress. One week in June, I had my son's birthday party. I was speaking at MOPS and they had changed my date with only a week's notice, so I had to rush to finish that presentation. I was packing for a 2-week trip and needed to finish all of my client work before I left for that 2-week trip. So I just had a ton on my plate, on top of we had just gotten our kitchen countertops in and the cabinets in. So I was trying to organize my kitchen and had been living in a very disrupted kitchen for a while, while also trying to cook 2 separate meals for me versus my husband and kids because of all of my dietary restrictions with my gut issues. So there were just a lot of layers of stress. And in the meantime, all of my friends, bless their hearts, were sending me different things of, hey, you need to do this for your gut, or hey, check out this person, or definitely follow this person, or go see this doctor. Everybody was telling me different things. And it started to get overwhelming to the point of, I don't know who to listen to anymore, because this podcast says one thing and this podcast is claiming another thing. So what am I supposed to do that will actually help my body? So that is what this episode is all about, not just the overload of health information, but we live in this information age where there are podcast after podcast and audiobooks and blog posts and Pinterest and ads and just talking with others that there are millions of sources of things that you quote unquote should be doing in life. So parenting, I've been given tons of parenting resources by friends of things that, especially if I have an issue with maybe a disciplinary issue, or for a lot of people who have issues getting their kids to eat healthy things or motivation to do their homework, things like that. When you have an issue, everybody sends you different articles and different books and things you should be consuming. And so in this information age, it's great because there's so many resources out there to help. And at the tip of your finger, right there on your phone, you can listen, you can read, you can go to classes, you can take a course, you name it, it's out there. There's information for you. But that can cause a lot of overwhelm of A, not knowing who to trust, B, not knowing which information applies to your life, and C, just trying to find the time and energy to implement everything that people say that you want. And even the money, like with all these gut issues and the health issues, everybody's sending me all these different things that I quote unquote should take that'll help my gut. It's like there are so many supplements, there are so many different doctors or courses that you could take that if I did everything everyone had sent me, I'd be spending thousands of dollars probably on all of these things. So how do we go about approaching when we do have an issue and we do need some help? How do we go about just self-improvement in general? Because as humans and as Christians, we're called to live to a high standard and to work as though we're working for the Lord. So we want to do things right. We want to improve our lives. We want to make a kingdom impact. And so we need to be at our best state in order to do that. So I wanted to go over just some tips that I came up with when I was feeling overwhelmed with so much information being poured on me, and how do we filter out what to listen to, what to take action on, and so that we can live our best life without more overwhelm and more stress. Welcome to the Anchored Decision Show. I'm your host, Lauren Black, the world's biggest overthinker turned decision coach, all by the grace of God. Now I'm on a mission to help you make easier decisions, discover God's will, and live with purpose. Tune in weekly to hear real-life decision stories, expert insights, and faith-based strategies to help you navigate your decisions with confidence. So ditch your pros and cons list and learn to make better decisions without asking your mom or losing another night of sleep. Let's go. All right, guys, welcome back. I figured I would do this episode. If you listen to the intro, I was talking about how I've been bombarded with information lately of all sorts of things that I should be doing in my life to improve. And some of them have come from really well-meaning sources of friends sending me things for my gut issues. Some of them have come just from friends that are like, hey, I discovered this really cool podcast about your hormones, and it was really interesting. I thought I'd share it. And some were just conversations with friends where I share an issue I'm having with discipline with my child. And she's like, oh, do this. And then my audiobook I'm listening to on parenting. And so there's just so many things being thrown at me right now of do this, do this, do this, do this. And the problem is every single person thinks that their thing, every podcast host or the guest that's speaking and every author that I hear seems to think that their thing is the be all end all. This will solve all of your problems because it worked for them. And I'm starting to realize that, first of all, if you were to follow everything that people put out there and suggested, it would be a full-time job, more than a full-time job. Like if I were to go through the list of every single thing that people have told me, parenting advice, health advice, hormone advice, all sorts of crazy things, it would be a full-time job to execute. And just doing the research itself to see, is this legit or not, is overwhelming, because you hear a story that this person had really bad hormones and they'd always get headaches and cramps and have cravings during their period. And so they went and balanced their hormone by eating right and eating different foods during different parts of their cycle and only exercising this way during that time of their phase of their cycle and exercising this other way during that phase of their cycle. And now they have no more cramps and they're awesome and they hardly bleed. I'm like, okay, that sounds great, but it also sounds like a lot of work to have to make my meal plan around my cycle and have to change my exercise plan. And so then, then you get the book that's like, okay, you have to do this with your kids. And if you don't, then you're going to fail them long term and they're going to be disasters. And, here's why they have issues in life and blah, blah, blah. And so you have to do this. And it's like, whoa, wait, I don't have time to implement all of that because we have activities and sports and school and I work. So at one point, I'm like, okay, I need to address this because it's probably not just me that is feeling overwhelmed by everything that bombards you with what you should be doing. My first tip is to, when you feel overwhelmed, to just take a break from the sources. So I had to stop listening to podcasts for a little while. I had to stop listening to my audiobook. I told my one friend that keeps sending all these kind of health-related and supplement-related podcasts, like, hey, this is really overwhelming for me. And so the next time she sends one, I'm just not going to listen unless it's something I desperately need to or want to, or I go in with the mindset of you don't have to follow everything. So the first step, take a break from listening, from sources, from all of that. The second thing is to focus on one problem at a time. Just focus on one thing. I was like, okay, maybe I'll focus on one parenting thing at a time and one health related thing at a time. And I know I have to get my gut right and my body healthy if I'm going to be able to serve those around me well. I love serving in church and I want to help out with, they've been doing this Tuesday night program where the adults are in one room learning and then the kids have their own program with curriculum. And I want my boys to see me involved and I want to be able to teach them and help out. But I went on the one Tuesday last week and I am not a teacher. And I'm realizing, wow, I was not cut out for this. And I was supposed to be teaching 4 to 6-year-olds, and there were a bunch of 3-year-olds and maybe even a couple 2-year-olds in there. I felt like I was in the nursery. I'm like, how am I supposed to teach these kids? And my stress level was so high. There were kids throwing trains and toys at other kids and beating each other up, like literally pulling kids down, smacking them with toys, kicking. It was really rough. And I'm like, I can't handle this right now since my gut condition is induced by stress. And my stress levels were so high. And I knew that threw me into a couple days of a flare up. Like, it really sucks. I want to be in there. I want to be able to help. But I know I need to get myself healthy first. So focus on one problem at a time. Right now, my hormones have not been an issue. I haven't felt super sluggish during a certain time of the month that I'm like, I can't do my exercise. I do strength training. I do Body Pump by Les Mills. I love it. It's the one program that I keep coming back to, and every single time I feel good and enjoy it and finish my workout instead of other programs that I'd be doing, a HIIT workout on YouTube or something, and halfway through I'm like, I don't like this. Either it's not pushing me enough or it's doing the same moves over and over and I didn't like that. So I have found a program that works for me and I do it every single week. And so I don't need to change my fitness routine around my hormones when that's not a problem for me. And things like getting your kids to eat more vegetables. I'm hearing all these things of, you got to put this in and make these special smoothies and do this. And here's what I do. I'm like, you know what? That's not a problem for me. My kids eat a decent amount of vegetables, tons of fruit. They're very healthy boys for the most part. And so I'm not going to focus on that. I'm not going to listen to that advice right now. Maybe down the line, if there's ways I can improve my kids' health even more by changing certain things that we do in our household, then I'll focus on that then. But for right now, what I'm doing is good enough for my kids. Don't go chasing problems that you didn't know was a problem until someone introduced this new problem. That's just overwhelming. If you have an actual problem, then yes, go out and do your research and start trying to find answers. So that leads me to the next step in ditching the overwhelm with this information age is to start looking for trends instead of specific pieces of advice, because you can start to see how this person's saying this and this person's saying that, and they go against each other. Or like this person says, all of your health issues will be solved by adding minerals. You need these special mineral supplements, and you don't get enough out of food these days because the way they crop, the ground doesn't have enough nutrients in it anymore, which I understand. is part of the issue, but is minerals my exact problem? Answer. I don't know. Or then you have this person that's saying, no, you need these supplements. Or I was listening to one that they're like, oh, you have to eat so much grass fed beef of pasture raised, and you have to start eating organs of like liver and heart and brain and tongue and all these things. And I'm just like, whoa, I'm not about to start making liver. It's hard enough for me to cook for my family and get my kids to eat decently healthy stuff as it is, to get all four of us to like what's on the table with what I'm making that's normal food. I'm not about to start trying to take these supplements that are organs when I don't know if there's research is actually behind that. So look for overall trends. So when you start to see multiple sources sharing similar things, that yes, grass-fed beef is better, then okay, maybe you can focus on adding that and making a change there when multiple sources have shared the same thing. So if you're starting to see things from different people that you trust and different sources, then you know, okay, there's something to this here. If it's just kind of a one-off, like I had never heard anything about the whole minerals thing before, that was kind of a one-off. That's just somebody who created a product and is pushing their product. And yes, I'm sure it's helpful, but in the reviews, when I went to look up this minerals product, half the people were like, yeah, it didn't do anything for me. So you're just spending all this money on really expensive stuff that probably part of it is a placebo effect. Like those who did say, yeah, this improved me so much. I mean, maybe it also improved their water intake because they're now adding this supplement to water every morning. And maybe that was the solution and not just the minerals. So look for the trends. Trends are your friends. See what is consistent across the board, and that way it's more trustworthy. So that leads me to number 4 is determine who to trust. So when you're getting fed all this information, and it could have worked for one person. It might have worked for the company owner, and that's why they started that company. But it can be hard to know who's actually like, why did it work for them? And who can we trust? Are they just in it for a profit, or do they genuinely care? So if you have a friend that has added something to their routine and it's worked for them, maybe you trust that reference over just some random influencer on the internet that swears by something weird that, once again, like maybe there aren't trends, aren't other people talking about it. And a lot of times there could be more than one solution that works. So adding the minerals, adding the organ supplements, those could all work individually and just help you overall be healthier and feel better. But there could be multiple paths that help you. Or let's say it's parenting and you're struggling with your kid not listening to you. There could be multiple paths of things that work. And the thing is, every person is different. Every scenario, every child is different. So when you're looking for who to trust, go to people who have similar situations to you. So for me, with my gut issues, I almost purchased a program that was like, heal your IBS and SIBO in 30 days with this program. And it's like, wait a second, I don't know if mine's officially labeled IBS, and I know I don't have SIBO. I might have had it back in like February, but the symptoms that I have now don't line up. And I did the whole gut test. I won't go into details with that, but I did a test and it showed me what my issues were. And so I'm pretty sure I don't have SIBO. So it's like, wait, why would I buy a program on SIBO when I don't think I have SIBO? I need to not take the advice from somebody who's dealing with different issues than me. And I'm sure there is some overlap. There probably would be things in there that are beneficial. But if I really want true healing, I need to find someone who has been dealing with the same high bad bacteria, low good bacteria, the poor digestion, and leaky gut. Those are the things I'm dealing with. That's what I need to find help with from someone who's been through that. Somebody else on a different podcast was like, oh, going paleo was the way to heal my IBS that I had suffered from years and years. And so I looked up, does paleo help with the leaky gut? And then it's called dysbiosis of having the different bacteria levels. And it's like, no, that can make it worse. Like, okay, yeah. So I'm glad I didn't decide to go follow that advice. when the diet that I've been doing, the low FODMAP diet, is what's suggested by the majority of sources. So figure out which one source to trust and then follow just that one. Like, don't start branching off, because then when you start piecemealing, well, this person just said to add this supplement, and this person said to then do this diet, and this person said to do this exercise program. And so when you start piecemealing it, it can kind of take away from any one thing working, or you won't know what's working. So even with supplements, I was suggested to take all these supplements for my gut. And so I started taking like 4 new things at once. And I had no idea whether they were working or not. And honestly, I actually started to get worse. And so I'm like, okay, something I'm taking made me worse. Now I have to cut back on all of them and add them in one at a time. Because taking too many things at once, trying too many things at once, you don't know what's making you worse, what's making you better. And so you won't know what to continue with. So taking advice from multiple different sources can just kind of mix your results. You might be doing things that go against each other and counteract each other. And so take advice from one person at a time, try one thing at a time, and document. Write down, journal out, what were you feeling like before and what's working, what's not. Even with, let's say it is a parenting thing with discipline, document what worked and what didn't work and figure out what works for you and your kids. So the other thing is, with all of this, as kind of a side note here, is that you can plug things into ChatGPT. Now, I know that ChatGPT is not always correct. And a lot of times they're pulling sources from the internet where anybody could post things on the internet. So what I like to do in these type cases is I like to put information in and say, can you find some trusted resources and provide me with what the resources are for research that has been done on XYZ? So a family member recently was diagnosed with something that our whole family is kind of having to rally around and deal with. And so it seems like every single family member has a different opinion of an article they found or studies that they've seen that would help with this issue. And finally, my one sister, who's actually an expert in this field, she was like, we need to put a stop to everybody throwing information out of some random article they found on the internet as concrete advice, and you are overwhelming the person with the diagnosis and their caretaker with so much information that we don't even know if that's been proven. So I took some of those concepts and said, hey, ChatGPT, what studies have been done on this and what were the results? And several of the things that we had put out there as unresearched stuff, it ends up that there have been case studies, there have been tests done, and one of them, not only did it not help, but it long-term made the person worse. And so sometimes it's like, okay, one source might be saying, oh, the FDA isn't going to approve this because it's an over-the-counter thing and they don't get any money from it. And so they're not going to push it, but it definitely should work. It makes sense, right? Well, yes, but if they've actually done clinical studies and ChatGPT can find those easier than just a normal Google search or just then the one article that you found, then that's when I start trusting ChatGPT, because it can actually look up in seconds and find the concrete research. And sure, do we always trust those sources? No, not always. Because sometimes we know from statistics class in college or high school that people twist the data to kind of form it to what they want people to see and hear and know about their product. So not everything's trustworthy, but it does help when you plug it into ChatGPT or Google to say, find me research evidence, and not just like, hey, what do you think? Because it could be pulling that from just a random blogger that she decided she was going to, drink vinegar all day and that suddenly she was cured. Woo! And it's like, wait, no, that might even be a lie. Like, we don't know this person. So the final piece of advice here is to decide what's good enough for now. So certain things you might be struggling with in your health routine, in your parenting, in your business, in your career, in you name it, that you've been wanting to improve upon. And you have to see what is worth my time to try to invest in the research and invest the time to actually implement, and what can I let go and say, that's good enough for now. You don't always need the perfect solution, and sometimes good enough is better because then you're free to move forward. You're not as stressed, you're not overwhelmed, you're not paralyzed by perfection. So your action steps today are to go through the steps that I've shared for any one thing that you have been wanting to improve upon, and let go of advice being thrown out there that isn't related to something you actually really need to work on and change right now. So let's go over those steps one more time. 1, take a break from the sources. Number 2, focus on one problem at a time. Number 3, look for trends. Number 4, determine who you want to trust and then just pick the one source to follow. Number 5, try one thing at a time. This has kind of been a theme, right? The one source, one thing, one problem. And then number 6, decide what's good enough for now. So let me know on Instagram or somewhere if you enjoyed this episode. Please share it with a friend. If you've been getting all the podcast episodes sent to you of so many overwhelming pieces of advice, this is one that hopefully this advice helps you to have less overwhelm rather than adding to your overwhelm. So let me pray us out. Father God, I thank you so much that you are sovereign over all and that we can turn to you and trust you as the source of truth, and that you are always trustworthy, God. So help us to let go of the overwhelm of information being thrown at us of so many things that we should be doing and how we should be improving our life and making changes. We want to grow, God. We want to be better. We want to be our best selves. But we know that for that, everybody's different, and everybody has different ways of achieving things, and what works for one person may not work for another. So help us to give ourselves grace and to know when to let go of the perfectionism and what to accept as good enough, and so that we can live our lives without the stress and overwhelm of feeling like we have to follow every single thing that's thrown our way. So help us to pick one thing that we can focus on. And God, may you guide us in that. May you point us to the right sources. And may you be the one to ultimately have your truth shine through and to hold us up. So Jesus, we surrender our problems, our issues, our health, and our well-being, our mental capacity to you, God. May you be in control. We love you and we praise you. In Jesus' name, amen. So friends, thank you for tuning in. And for those of you who have been sticking around through me being absent for so long, thank you. I appreciate you. I do have some exciting things coming up. So definitely stay tuned. If you're not following me on social, go ahead and please give me a follow. It really helps my show, and it helps me be able to reach more people like you with the gospel and with these decision-making tips to help you live less overwhelmed, make better choices, and live your best life. So go follow me at Anchored Decisions on Pinterest, Instagram, and Facebook. So bye for now. Thanks for listening all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this episode, take a screenshot of it and post it to social media, making sure to tag me at Anchored Decisions, or share it with a friend. This helps me know which type of content to create more of, and gives me the opportunity to connect with you as a listener outside of your earbuds. See you next week for another episode.